Friends, and welcome to another Word Problem Wednesday. This week, the theme is measurement, and so today we are going to be talking about two different kinds of measurements: customary measurements and metric measurements. So we are used to the customary system of measuring, and that's the system that we use in the United States to measure the length of things. And that's using measurements like inches and feet and miles and sometimes yards. But if you go to places in the rest of the world, they don't use feet and miles like we do. They use different lengths. So we're going to be talking about both groups today. So, like I said, in the United States, we use the customary system. We use centimeters, inches, feet, and miles. Where in the metric system and other places in the world, they use millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. So we are all familiar with an inch. An inch is about 1/4 wide. And depending on the size of your hand, when you bend your finger, your knuckle, that flat part of your finger, is sometimes about an inch wide. So that's a little handy ruler that you have with you at all times. A foot is 12 inches. That's the length of a ruler and about the length of a clipboard as well. A yard is equal to 3 feet or 3 rulers, and that's about the width of a door. Now, some people, you can ask your parents or look around your house, sometimes people have a yard stick, and it looks like a really long ruler. That's 3 rulers, 3 feet long. And a mile is our biggest unit of measurement. A mile is equal to 5,280 feet. And that is 4 times around a football field or a soccer field. So that is a long, long way to go. So just like we talked about, a mile is the biggest unit of measurement. 5,280 feet or 4 times around a field. A yard is equal to 3 feet or about the width of a door. A foot is a ruler length equal to 12 inches and about the length of a clipboard. And then we have an inch, which is about the width of a quarter. So inches are great units of measurement to measure all different kinds of things. Inches are a great size, so we can measure books, pencils, desks, papers, paper clips, and inches can be just used for a lot of things. When you're measuring bigger things, though, it's better to use feet. You can measure the size of plants and trees in feet. You can measure people in feet and then use inches with it as well. If you're measuring big pieces of wood or even your house, you can use feet. And for the depth of a pool, to know how deep it is, they use feet for that as well. Yards are often used in races. They call them the 100-meter or 100-yard dash, and different kinds of races. And also, if you're a football fan, you know that they use yard lines to know how far that they went. And remember, a yard is equal to 3 feet. And miles, our biggest unit of measurement, those are used for far distances. So if you're taking a road trip, you'd say how many miles it is, how many miles from one state to another state. Miles are for long, long distances. What do you think would be the best to measure a pencil with? What would you measure a pencil with? Inches, yards, or miles? I think inches would be the best. Inches are just great to measure with. What about your height? If you tell me how tall you are, you would say your height is about this many feet and this many inches. Or sometimes people even use centimeters. But usually we say inches and feet. So I am 5'8" tall. For races, we measure those in yards, which is 3 feet is 1 yard. And for far distances, it is best to measure that in miles. So we've practiced with rulers before in class and played around with them a little bit. We know that the big, longer measurements on our ruler are the inches with the bold, dark numbers, and the smaller side is the centimeters. So each bold number on a ruler represents another inch. So we have 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 and 6 inches. And remember, you always start measuring at the very edge of your ruler. Don't start at the 1, start at the edge. In between each inch, there is a longer line in the middle, and we know middle usually represents half. So this would be half an inch. This would be 1.5 inches. This would be 2.5 inches. 3.5 inches, 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches. So that longer line in between is a half. And then in between the halves, there are 1/4 marks, 1/4 inches. So we have here, if you follow my pointer, we have 1/4 of an inch. The middle half is 2/4 of an inch. And then we have 3/4 of an inch. So 1/4, 2/4 is the green, 3/4. 1 inch, 1 1/4 inches, 1 2/4 inches, 1 3/4 inches, 2 inches, 2 1/4, 2 2/4, 2 3/4, 3 inches, 3 1/4, 3 2/4, 3 3/4, and on and on and on. So remember, if it's in between, it's less than a half, it's 1/4. If it's more than a half, it's 3/4. And if it's on the half, it's 1/2, or you could call it 2/4. How long would you say this orange line is? From the end to here, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 inches long. Now it grew. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, but it's right in the middle of 4 and 5 inches. So we would call that 4.5 inches. Oh, now it shrunk. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not at the half, though. It's less than a half. What was that in between measurement called? That was a fourth. So we have 4 1/4 inches. Put your finger at where was 5 inches on this ruler? 5 inches, if we count up, we get to 5 right here. Where would 3.5 inches be? So we go to 1, 2, 3, and then where would half an inch past that be? That would be right here. What about 2 3/4 inches? So we need to go to 2, and then where would 3/4 be? Remember, this is 1/4, this is 2/4, this would be 3/4. Right there. 3/4 is greater than 1/2. All right, word problem time. Maria needs 2 feet of red ribbon for her blouse and 12 inches of red ribbon for her hair. How much ribbon does she need to buy? Now, if you just looked at those numbers and said, oh, she needs 14, That is not the correct answer, and here is why. When we are measuring, the labels on those numbers are super important. She needed 2 feet and 12 inches. Now, feet and inches are two different measurements. So, in order to put them together, we need to either make both of them be inches or both of them be feet. So, there's a couple different ways to solve this problem. So, the way I personally thought of it, I know 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. So, if she had 2 feet of red ribbon, and she needed an extra 12 inches, which is 1 foot. 2 feet plus 1 foot is equal to 3 feet of ribbon. So I changed my inches into feet and then just put the feet together. Or another way is you can turn them all into inches. So if we have 2 feet, I need to turn those into inches. So I know 1 foot is 12 inches. So if I double that for 2 feet, and I double that, that would be 24 inches just for her shirt. So if we have 24 inches for her blouse, plus the 12 extra inches for her hair, 24 plus 12, that would get me 36 inches. So 36 inches or 3 feet equal each other, and they also equal 1 yard. So any of those measurements would be correct. But make sure you check the labels on your measurements because they are very, very important. Now, onto the metric system. These are the ones that are used in other countries. Now, we've seen centimeters and we've even seen some millimeters on our rulers, but we're not as familiar with meters and kilometers. So we're going to be talking about those a little bit today. So the origin of the word meter came from the Greek, and meter in Greek means measure. And so this word in English also talks about measurement. So meter means measure. So some of the important prefixes on these words are kilo, centi, and milli. If you hear kilo, that means 1,000. That's a lot. So when we were talking about mass and science, we talked about grams and kilograms. A kilogram is 1,000 grams. Okay. Centi means 1/100th or 0.01 if you know decimals. So a centimeter, there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Same with milli. Milli means 1/1000th, super tiny. So a millimeter, there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. That's a lot, and they're super duper teeny tiny lines. Those are the tiniest lines on your ruler. Okay, so kilo, 1,000, centi, 1/100th, and a millimeter is 1/1000th. All right. So a meter is close to about 3.3 feet. So it's a little bit bigger than a yard that we were talking about in the US measurements. So again, talk to your families or look around your house. You might have a meter stick. That's a long stick, and it's about 3.3 feet long. And a meter is about the width of 1.5 doors. So a meter is about 3.3 feet. Like we said before, kilo means 1,000, and that's a little bit over half of a mile. cent in Greek means 1/100th. And so a centimeter is either about the width of your pencil, or if you look at your finger from the bottom of your finger to your fingernail, that's about a centimeter wide or a centimeter tall. So a centimeter, the width of your pencil, or as tall as your finger from the bottom of your finger to your fingernail. And there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. We said milli in Greek means 1/1000th, and that's about the width of a pin. So small. So when you look at the centimeter side of your ruler, we have a centimeter from 0 to 1, but then we have these teeny tiny itty bitty lines in between. One of those is 1 millimeter, just from here to here. So but from 0 to 1 centimeter, there's 10 millimeters in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Teeny, teeny, tiny. So we want to use millimeters for the teeniest, tiniest things. Since a millimeter is so small, we use it to measure small things like a ladybug. Like if I wanted to measure the width of a paper clip, or the length of a push pin, or the length of a safety pin. Teeny, teeny, tiny. Centimeters are a little bit bigger. Okay, now we talked about we would measure these things in inches if we were allowed to use inches, but for the metric system, they don't have inches. They go from centimeters to meters, which are 3 feet long. So centimeters help you to get a better measurement. Meters, which is about 1 yard, a little bigger than 3 feet, those are used for bigger things. So sometimes in races, they say it's the 100-meter dash. Or you can use meters to measure the length of wood or just bigger things, because a meter is 3 feet, about 3 feet long. And kilometers, which is a little bit bigger than half of a mile, that's longer distances. So we use kilometers for traveling. If you go to another country, instead of miles per hour, it says kpm, kilometers per hour. So they use that for all different kinds of things. What would you use to measure a pencil? Millimeters, centimeters, meters, or kilometers? I would say to measure a pencil, centimeters would be best. Millimeters are just super tiny, and a meter is way too big. For something small like a pin, we would want to use millimeters, teeny tiny. The smaller it is, the smaller you need the measurement to be. For races, what was it that we said they used? Meters. And for far travels, instead of miles, they used kilometers. So on a metric ruler, they don't use inches. It's just centimeters and millimeters. So each of these big numbers is a centimeter on here, and the smaller lines are the itty bitty millimeters. So we have 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters. And like we said, each of the small lines is 1 millimeter. So we have 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters, and on and on and on. So 10 millimeters are in 1 centimeter. So to give you some practice with measuring, this push pin is about 2 centimeters. Or remember, if there's 10 millimeters here and 10 millimeters here, That's 20 millimeters long. This eraser is about 7 millimeters long. So we have 5 millimeters, 6, 7 millimeters, or you could say it's 0.7 centimeters. It's smaller than a centimeter, but I would just stick with millimeters. This paper clip, we could say is 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33 33 millimeters, or 123.123 centimeters. So 3.3 centimeters. So either one works. How long is this bug in either centimeters or millimeters? I would say that this bug is 17 millimeters or 1.7 centimeters. From 0 to 1 centimeter, that's 10 millimeters. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 millimeters. Or we've got 1 centimeter, 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1.7 centimeters. How long is this fly in centimeters or millimeters? I would say it is either 11 millimeters, because we've got 10, 11 millimeters, or 1 centimeter, 0.1. 1 centimeter with one extra line, 1.1 centimeters. How wide is this butterfly? Now, I took away the millimeters, but I still want you to be as precise as you can be. How many centimeters or how many millimeters do you think this butterfly is? I would say this butterfly is either 3.5 centimeters, because we've got 3 centimeters and a half. So half means 0.5. If you said 3.5 centimeters, that's totally fine. Or it's 35 millimeters, because remember, we've got 10, 20, 30, and then half would be an extra 5. So 35 millimeters. That one was a challenge. And how long is this strawberry? This strawberry is about 15 millimeters, because we have 5, 10, 15, or 1.12345 centimeters. And our last question for right now, Todd wants to build a square picture frame. Square is important. And it is 10 centimeters long on just one side. So one side is 10 centimeters. How much frame does he need to buy? So if one side is 10 centimeters, how much does he need for all 4 sides? So this is just like a perimeter question. If it's a square, I know squares have equal sides. So if one side's 10, then this side's 10 centimeters, this side's 10 centimeters, and this side's 10 centimeters. So I can calculate this by adding 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, or I can take the shortcut 10 times 4, because I'm just adding 10 4 times to get my answer of 40 centimeters. So that is all I have for your slideshow today. Instead of doing the questions on the Google form like we have in the past, I have another Google slideshow for you to drag and drop your answers into. I've shortened it from what it was originally, so hopefully it doesn't take you too long. And I hope this helped you out with measuring. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Guys.